How's it going?
Is it like spring break Friday? How are you?
My colleagues here.
Have a lot of spray raising. This will come out under 700. 650 over. Almost hit 7. That's four things. Give it up.
Sympathize for more today. She's having tech issues.
No. I can say. So I'm not good
All right, folks, good afternoon. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are gonna go ahead and get started with the roll call. Here we go.
All right. Laptop died, so I'm going analog. All right, Allen. Stanford. Burgill. Boyd.
Here.
Brock.
Here.
Busan.
Here.
Paramanica. Chang.
Here.
Polly.
Here.
Cuomo.
Here.
Council.
Here.
There you go. Doms.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Dutt.
Here.
Dyer. Elias.
Dyer's here. Here.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. Great, gotcha. All right, Ellison.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Griffin.
Uh,
Hadley.
Wait.
Proxy. All right, Hadley.
Patrick Clinton, proxy.
Great. Gotcha. Hampton. Hart. Hildebrand.
Here.
Jansen.
Sure.
Yara Pasmino. Kazim.
Here.
Khan.
Yes.
Lee. Maggiano.
Kristen's invisible proxy.
Matthews. Mendes.
Here.
Moon.
Here.
Morales.
Here.
Afoe.
Here.
Peralta.
Here.
Perry. Riker. Roberts. Ruffin. Song.
Here.
Shepherd.
Here.
Shelnutt.
Proxy. Allison.
Shin.
Here.
Siciliano.
Here.
Swift.
Here.
Talbot.
Here.
Viswanath. Webb. Wentz.
Here.
Yang. Yarbrough.
Here.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started with our administrative reports. We'll start with the president. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Excuse me. Thank you for being here on a Friday, and some of you will be traveling for the weekend and stuff, so I do appreciate all of you being here today. So I have several things on my list, and then Provost will add a few more things. But I want to start with something which you may not like me saying. You may hate me in the next 10 minutes, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I believe that, we believe we build trust when we are honest with each other. And I want to start with the survey that I got on, you had met as a committee, and there was a survey done on faculty senate suggestions on increasing engagement and campus presence. And I was delighted when I came to know that, because many of you have talked with many of you, and by the way, when I say you, I'm not necessarily saying people in this room, I'm just saying in general as a faculty body. And I know that generally when I've talked about undergraduate presence and engagement, and I've received positive feedback from the faculty on, yes, this is important. So I was delighted when Dylan told me that, hey, we're gonna be talking more and giving you a survey on, you know, what faculty can do to increase engagement and campus presence. And I got the survey, and I don't think there's one line on what faculty can do to increase student engagement. Every single line is what administrators should do, what I should do, and what we should give. And again, I mean, it's, you know, as the faculty senate, as advising the president, I always like to know, I'm a faculty member, I've been on the faculty senate. And I know that as a faculty senate, it's your role to advise the president on these are our needs. But I was hoping there would be like one sentence about this is what we're planning to do to push our colleagues for greater engagement, greater campus presence to support our students. So I was disappointed with that. And I wanted to express that. I've gotten it out of the way. And now I'll actually get to what are the things that were in here. Because I do care about, you know, things that are happening here and your concerns. But I will say kind of to a couple of broad themes, because a lot of it seems to assume that being on campus is optional. It is not. All of us sign up for jobs, all of us, and again, I'm preaching to the choir because you're here on a Friday afternoon. So this is, like I said, you know, this is not necessarily about the group I'm speaking to right now, but being on campus is expected of everyone. That is, you can go to any, and there's a big push right from the federal government to the state government, to the university system of Georgia, and any institution. Being on campus is not an option. That's the jobs we sign up for. Doing things for our students, as some of the things here say, these are not optional things. We do three things as faculty members. We teach, we do research, and we do service, all three with a student success umbrella on top, right? That's what we do. That's our job. And we don't get incentivized for doing those jobs, right? So it is expected, every faculty member, every staff member. Yes, there are always, you know, I mean, there are always exceptions and there are reasons for people having, and again, as faculty members, and I mean, I love my flexibility as a faculty member. I would work on Saturdays and Sundays and do my research and so on. So we definitely have the privilege of having flexibility. So no one is saying that faculty members need to swipe in and swipe out, but should faculty be here once a while, every week, everyone, right? That's not an option. And I have been with Jeremy, who heads our facilities. I go to buildings like every week, we have a couple of tours. And it's not been great to see, you know, kind of like basically empty buildings. Okay, like very, very few. And again, I'm generalizing here. It's not like every spot is, but generally that's true. And I'll ask around, or I'll talk to the dean or whoever, and they're like, oh, well, people must be teaching and so on. But I think you know that. And honestly, if any of you are welcome at any time, I can pick times randomly to walk with me and step into buildings. And that's not, so when I see that, and then I see a comment about like, you know, we need administrators up front who can serve us anytime. I don't see face validity in those comments, because first we have to be around and then seek help from someone. If you want someone in person, right? The point was having physically present in person. So, and that's not, again, I mean, I just wanted to say kind of like, I just wanted to tell you what my views are on these topics broadly. This is not to say that I'm not trying to undermine any concerns you have. There's a long history of things here, and there are feelings and thoughts and concerns, which I'm totally sympathetic towards. Trust me, I spent a lot of time I had a special meeting with my leadership team to discuss, I was like, let's leave the rest to the side, let's see what is possible. And as a faculty member, I'm all for like, and I know salaries, for example, and given how expensive Carrollton is becoming, that's an issue for faculty and staff. Okay, it is a big issue. I mean, I have lost staff members who have gotten like 50% raises at other institutions in this one. So it's not like I'm not aware of the concerns. But there are things which we have to, it's all of these things are always chicken egg issues, which is, hey, you do this for me and then I'll work harder. But sometimes it's like, who are the people who you want to reward, right? I mean, if I'm president, who do I want to reward? I want to see people. A lot of this is, having, maybe having faculty more involved in like staff kind of roles and so on. Who do you think administrators pick? They pick the ones who have been going out of their way and they're doing things. And then you're like, you know what, this person really loves doing this stuff. So can we get this person a stipend and have this person work, kind of do more for us? That's how decisions get made in any organization, right? That's how I do it. That's how everyone does it. You look for people who go above and beyond, and you try to keep them, retain them, and so on. But despite that, like I said, I mean, it's no secret. You can, we know what the salaries are. We know what the other perks are. I think the USG overall has good perks, which sometimes get underestimated, which many other institutions don't have. But as salaries, there's no doubt that's a challenge. And by the way, that's a challenge for many people across the USG. I think the state has been generous the last few years in some COLA increases, but of course they're not sufficient given. I mean, I look at like home prices here, for example. I mean, I had no idea that Carrollton. I mean, I knew about Atlanta, but I had no idea this market was. So I'll just go through the things, but I just wanted to tell you, kind of like I said, I think we know me by now. I believe in direct communication. I believe in sharing what I'm feeling, and I'll go ahead and I'll go through some of the things on here and give you my broad thoughts. So the first one, which connects to faculty morale and stuff, was on compensation housing. This was the discussion I was having, and again, there are, we have budgets and we need to have priorities on like where do we spend our money. But I will tell you that in general, that is definitely something on our mind, which is how do we look at the Krupa ranges and how do we kind of, try to pull people up slowly. We'll never have enough money to just elevate everyone, but how do we take the limited resources and how do we slowly get people up to speed, because we don't want to lose people and we are losing people, both faculty and staff. It's as simple as that. So we have to do things, otherwise it'll just keep getting harder. It'll become a vicious cycle. You don't have I will tell you one thing that I discussed with the provost, which came up on promotions and stuff. There was kind of this system of you'll get promotion money up to a certain point, but you get less money if you're already at the higher range of Cuba, right? And to me, that didn't make sense because if you're at the higher end, you're probably a good faculty member already, and everyone should get some money for promotion. So I was supportive of that, and I was like, let's not penalize people for being at the higher range, because maybe there's a reason that they're at the higher range. And so let's not penalize them. They're getting a promotion. Let's give them that standard bump. And I think we implemented this year already, right? Done like for this year. So we are doing things wherever possible. Like I said, this is top of mind for me, for both faculty and staff. That was first thing I wanted to say. The second point here is on campus jobs for students. And this is, I'm 100% aligned with it. I strongly believe that students, when we're trying to engage them on campus, when we're trying to keep them here, having them employed in jobs is one of the best ways. This is where you build memories about someone working in the dining hall, and then they, and things like that. And we are here to, have those memories. And if we have to hire a student versus someone else, my clear guideline is let's go for the student. I think there are some barriers, some kind of, from an HR standpoint, the processes and so on, which we're trying to work on, including on our website. For example, I was meeting with Chase, our SGA president, and I talked about student employment with him. This was maybe a month ago. And he was like, people choose to take a job outside at a pizza place than work inside. And then they really struggle because the pizza place has no empathy for, hey, I have an exam today, because they've got to run a business. And but it's so much easier to go out and get a job, and to me that is unacceptable. It is how do we make processes easy. And then what Chase also showed me, that he took me to a website. It was essentially 7 or 8 clicks. It said student employment, but then you have 7 or 8 clicks before you actually get to the jobs, right? I mean, these are simple things, but that is something which is very, very important for me. But I've also been glad to see that over the last couple of years, the dollars per hour have gone up slowly for students. It used to be like minimum wage, I think it was $7.75. But now we have, I think, 10, 12, 15, there are different wages for positions. And again, just like any other job, we can do more. We're competing with an external market. But it's better, but I think students will happily take slightly lower salary here if they have a more understanding employer, which all of us would be, right? Because we are here for the students. And so that's definitely my that's one of my top priorities right now, this semester. The other, I already referred to it. The other one is on communication and stuff, and not just websites. It is, I looked at, nowadays students use apps, and we have like 4 apps, right? So, so there's like my UWG, there's a dining app, there's an athletic app, there is, what's it? Go Live, what's it called? Live, whatever. So, what's the Live?
Live safe.
Live Safe, yeah. So, Go Live, yeah, that's a good name too. So, and I'm sure there are others too. So, and I know these things take time, but what we've already done is through the main website, can we at least have links to these others? Like if you need this dining information, click here, and then students can download a website if they are looking for information. So, so communication is big for me, kind of improving that, student employment, definitely, and streamlining other processes. So that's what we've already started on this semester. And the changes we made last semester on dining and HVAC and so on have been very, very helpful. I mean, our student complaints were like crazy when I was here last semester. And thankfully, touch wood, they have really subsided. And it's not just, opening up East Commons dining, it's also some other changes we've been making, which are having a positive, experience. And we're also, and I think the provost may talk more, we're also made progress on more in-person sections, thanks to you and your units. And that is also, we're doing everything we can to keep them here. And then, like I said, jobs and communication, other things, so that they are engaged. All right, so student jobs. Next one was student engagement facilitators, like, how can students be more engaged with students? And we have, so first there are lots of, and actually there was a theme in many cases of like admissions and student activities, and I want to go hiking and I want to do this thing, lots of things of I want to be engaged with students. I love that. we can't, because a lot of it is also, I want to go hiking with students. So what can you do for me if I go hiking? I'm sorry, I can't do, I mean, we have registered student organizations. And faculty are expected to be working with those. And right now, I think we have 40 or so which don't have a faculty advisor. So if you are interested in engaging with students, then I would definitely welcome that. And because we have a strong need, you're interested in working with admission, any area. We're a public institution, there are no secrets, any area you want to be like, I know there are Senate groups and so on, and you're working in some areas already. But if you need access to me and my staff, if you need, if you need to work with our students, our staff in some way, but the starting point cannot be like, I mean, honestly, to me, that's a wrong way to select people. I don't want to select people because I'm offering something. I want to select the ones who are doing it because it's their passion and they love to do it. And then I would want those people inside. I wouldn't want the people just because they're coming in because there's this cap. I would, anyone, and it's, any good administrator looks for people who go above and beyond, who do want to do things. And then you're like, wow, this person is not getting paid for this and is doing so much. I need to pay this person for something. That's how it works. Right? So the answer to like, will I get, hey, I want to be on a hike, will you give me credit for that? No. That is, we would welcome that. We would love that. We would love that engagement. To some extent, you're getting credit because, that's part of like service and student success. And you're like, it's kind of, it's building your story. And one thing I would ask everyone is, and again, this is, many of you who are here on a Friday afternoon are obviously engaged in many things that happen here. And many good faculty members honestly don't keep track of things they do because because someone invites you, like, sure, I'll come there. One big suggestion I would have for everyone is to just make notes, keep track of things you're doing. That's how you build a case for yourself. Because any small thing, big thing, keep track of those things, make a list, share it with your department chair. That's how, that's how you kind of build like, this is the value I'm adding in so many ways. Right? And because otherwise what happens is, and I've seen faculty that way too, they keep doing things, no one notices, and then one day they give up because of like, no one cares what I do. But many times it's simply communication, which is you want people to know that you are engaging in certain things. There were a bunch of things on, if you do this, I will be on campus. And I think I already made that clear. I mean, this is a long list of going from laundry services to car washes to free Starbucks. No, I mean, I'm not kidding. This is kind of, it's basically a bunch of things. And like, no, campus, you have to be on campus. And we aren't going to, that's part of what we signed up for when we took a job. And but at the same time, in this list, there are some things, and I think faculty sometimes aren't aware of how much we have going on. So dining, for example, I don't know if you know, I mean, I buy meal plans. I eat mostly in our dining halls because we get discounted rates. If you are a faculty or staff member, you get discounted rates if you get any of the meals. And I've seen some of you in our dining halls, and we offer good food. I mean, you can get that. One reason I eat more often here is because for the same price, I can get a good balanced meal outside of campus. So, and you get a discount for doing that. There was a question on parking. I don't even know if I should say this, but our faculty are paying lower than our students are. Okay, our faculty are paying anywhere from $15 to $200. It's kind of back to salary for annual parking. Our students are paying $110 a semester. Okay, so our faculty are getting an incredible deal on parking and dining discounts. You go to UWG Outfitters, you show them your card. If you didn't know, we have, and you get a discount. So athletics, we have free tickets which go unused because we don't have enough faculty members. You want to go to any game? We have plenty of free tickets. And we have other discounts and stuff too. You just need to let us know. You need to, Jason Carmichael, he's an athletic director, or just let me know. So we are doing things which you may or may not be aware of. But there are lots of these discounts and stuff. We don't offer free, we can't offer. We couldn't even do that. We couldn't offer you a free, just like, whatever, car wash. Because we have things, it's like, we can't just use state money for anything we like. But I'm just saying that there are plenty of those discounts and yeah, I have several things that will, like as I mentioned, dining and so on. The other one is hosting events. And I think we can try to circulate a calendar. We are actually this is about community, engaging with the community. And we actually do a lot. And again, faculty members are welcome to be in we have we have a 5K race coming up for some of the community member. For MLK, we had, events, in the community that we joined. We have auctions. We are, and there was another question related to this, which is, can we give discounted space in a discounted way to community members so that we can bring them in? We not only give discounts, many times we give it free because we want community members to come in. So we're big on that. If you hear from the community that we are not supportive of things, please let us know, because that's like among our top priorities here, and we have plenty of we have lots of engagement. We're really busy, and it's available online. I don't have the website with me, but the calendar is available online, and we can try to share it. We do have strong relationships with our chamber, our companies. I mean, honestly, for me, coming in from an academic background, I had not anticipated how much time I would be spending kind of outside of UWG, and I'm spending, I think, maybe 50% of my time right now. In my mind, I was like, okay, maybe I'll spend 5%, 10%, but I think I'm spending half my time with businesses, chamber, local government, other community members, because I quickly realized that that collaboration is a big piece of the success of UWG. In space issues, some of it is, again, like, the offices, the nicer offices and things like that. And again, we have offices, all of you have office spaces. We need to see people in those spaces. These, I've said earlier, are buildings. The most money I've spent since I came here is on facilities. The most money spent every year is on facilities. We have these beautiful buildings, which are incredibly expensive to maintain. Anything small breaks down, it's like quickly hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. It's a big drain if we don't use it. It's a big asset if we use what we have, and it's a big drain if we don't. And right now, with the number of people in the building, I've talked in many academic buildings with faculty offices and so on. I've honestly talked to my facilities person and said, should we even leave the air conditioning on in this building? Because I don't see anyone, and we're spending so much money on energy, right? So we do have spaces. There was another question on spaces for meeting in groups and so on. Again, if you look for a space reservation, we have plenty of spaces. Any space you want to meet students, have faculty gathering, we just go to the library. We have a very nice space which was recently built on the 3rd floor. We have beautiful places everywhere. So we have no shortage of space to meet people, have private spaces, whatever. So just let us know. Again, we'll have, I think there's a space management website, I don't have the links, but we have plenty of space, plenty of very, very good spaces across campus, which again, the issue is only underutilization. It's not about not having spaces. There was some on mingling of administration with faculty members. Happy to do it anytime. Personally, for me, anytime I've ever received an invite, now it's been 7 months for me. Out of like maybe 50, 60, 70 things, I think I've only declined one. Okay, wherever I'm asked, I'm there. If I can't make it, I'll talk to someone else in my staff. And I know the other staff members also try to go wherever they can. All of us are busy. Sometimes we can't stay for the whole thing, but we try to go. So again, if you feel administrators are not showing up, many times it's because we don't know. So just make sure we know you want me someplace. I really try my very best to, it's again, not always possible, but I try my very best to be wherever I can. And I would say the same thing for my staff, if you want us to be presented in any places. Something on, kind of convincing, this was again kind of having more, this was incentivizing students to take face-to-face classes. And again, we're trying to work in that space, but a lot of it is we do have students who are here or on campus, but who often don't have enough in-person classes to take. And again, thanks to your support, that's changing. And to me, that's one clear way to have more students be on campus, right? But we are definitely, as you know, that's something I've been working hard on. Address communication issues. I already said this because I do know that communication is something I've struggled with here myself. And because there we have great things, like I was just mentioning these discounts and so on, and people don't know. The same goes for students. We have our health, what's it called, the Student Health Center. I don't know if you know, but students don't need insurance, and they can go there at $20 and get most things taken care of and get discounted prescription. Faculty can pay, I think, $50. They won't ask you insurance, and you can get basic good services, and they have a pharmacy as well. And we have, like, again, lots of these things which people don't know. That's number one. Number two, we have these multiple modes of communication. Even for pure communication, we have a UCM, which is the university communication. It's from schools, student affairs, enrollment management, provost office, and so on. And that's definitely, how do we integrate and make sure everyone talks to each other? On that front, I do want to mention one thing which also came up to my attention. I know I won't be here, but John will be here. And we're having a discussion on how faculty can talk to each other more and engage. And you're, I look forward to hearing kind of, what solutions you have. But I did want to kind of make you aware that, so from my standpoint, it's critical for us to have official means of communication which don't get cluttered, right? We want to make sure that if something important is going on, then we are able to reach all faculty members. I know John sends a weekly newsletter on faculty information and so on. So we don't want that list of clutter, but if you form your own, whatever it may be, I don't know, whether it's a listserv, some other way, it's a Facebook page, whatever it is. One thing I would ask you to be careful about, especially if you're using university email, if you're using university resources, please make sure your conversations stay on kind of, about the university. Number two, be careful in terms of with open records, searches. anything you say will be, could be held against you and those who read those messages. Sometimes, we have, for example, reporting requirements. Somebody says something which is serious and you have read the message and you didn't inform anyone, that itself is an issue. So anytime you're interacting on, and I'm just saying this as general advice, because I've seen people get into trouble, not only because they send a message, but also because they received it and they didn't do anything. Okay, so I would urge you to whatever communication and, I would love for faculty to have more communication. All I'm saying is be careful in whatever you choose, where it doesn't get into other topics, doesn't get dominated by, which usually happens in these most 3 or 4 people then dominate the whole discussion. People get jaded and then they stop seeing the important emails and stuff. So just wanted to make you aware, but I'm all for, whatever you can find to talk more to each other. It's always a good thing if you find other ways to communicate with each other. Few other things, there's one, can we get an ROTC unit? Honestly, that's something I asked when I came here, and I realized we don't have an ROTC unit. I'm trying to get more information on that, but it does seem like it's expensive to get started. I will tell you that we have 2 things that I want to, if you're in kind of, in the vicinity of that. One is National Guard. We have 2 people here in Parker, and they help any students who want to serve. It's a pretty good deal. I think you serve like 40 days and they pay for your tuition and things like that. It's a pretty good service we have. And students who want to go to the National Guard, we've got support here. That's in the Parker. It's in the bottom, like basement of Parker building. The second one I wanted to say, kind of from law enforcement, our elite program, ALETE, which is, where our students, while they're doing criminology and and other majors, they can simultaneously become sworn police officers and get the certification that's needed. It's a very good, we're getting great coverage on that program, and again, that's something which, we're encouraging our students to participate in. Is there a way we can leverage having pet-friendly student housing? All our student housing is pet-friendly. Okay, so anyone can have pets, that's not an issue. There was some on connecting faculty and students of common talents, interests. Obviously, that we have the RSO, the Registered Student Organizations, great way to connect with people, and we have big needs there. That's pretty much it. The last one was again kind of things like, can I get credit for going to a scholarly talk on campus? Yes, you should get, general credit, but again, that's part of, our jobs. So the last thing I want to close on is, and again, these are things, again, like I said, we are paying, despite how I started the conversation, please know that we are paying attention to everything you're saying here. So we are trying to see what best we can do. There's a couple of things which that when come up last time. One was on Dr. Khan, you had mentioned on NIH, and you wanted me to convey to the chancellor on, and I did, and this is about the indirects from NIH grants being reduced to 15%, and it doesn't affect us as much, but these things do trickle down for us as well, and the chancellor is well aware, and of course he's heard about this from our other research institutions. We also had along with John Preston and our CFO Scott, we went to the budget meeting for a chancellor, where I presented kind of basically this focus on undergrad presence and so on, and kind of how, from my standpoint, everything I do, including the money we spend on housing and dining and so on, is directed toward that goal, right? Others too, but that's kind of the main goal that we've had, and I can tell you it was well received, kind of, of course, it's one thing identifying a problem, the second thing actually solving it and having that greater presence. But as a goal, as our budget plan, it was well received. So there is, and whoever the next permanent president may be, I can assure you that undergrad presence and having student engagement on campus will definitely be one of the top priorities. That will continue. This is not something I'm saying, but this is something I'm saying as interim president. This is something I'm saying as the chief academic officer of the system. There's something the chancellor is saying. There's something everyone is actually even in our search profile. Undergrad is a big priority in that one. So I'm saying this because I don't want people thinking, okay, this is as an interim, we'll see what the permanent president wants. I can assure you that this will be one of the key things for anyone who's in this role, because to me, that's critical for long-term sustainability of this institution. And so that will definitely be, I'm sure any new president will have multiple priorities, but I'm sure this will continue to be one of those. All right, I'm done. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yes.
I was gonna add, the communication piece, because I've been, serving on the SATLA committee, student activities fees. And, I've learned a lot about all of the things that are ongoing on this campus, And I do wish there was a way that we could find some way to inform faculty about even some of these organizations that have awareness projects going on campus that we might not.
And the student-
on the
yeah.
regular, but I do
And that
think
is.
not flooding inboxes with all kinds of.
No, I mean, and that's why honestly, the best way, that's what the best universities do, which is to have good apps, right? I mean, everything is an apps nowadays where you go and something pops up and if you're interested, you go in, if you're not. But I would say, I mean, what you're raising is a very, and John, we should try to kind of have access. But is a very important piece, because one thing I've realized here is that from the student affairs standpoint, there's a lot going on in that space. But how that gets integrated with one is what you do, because many times these are kind of like different worlds, and something is happening in the faculty world, and well, this is not academic, and but the student experience, students leave because dining halls are bad. Students leave because there's mold in housing. Students leave because there's nothing to do on campus, right? So these are all as important to me, and many times more than just what's happening in the classroom. And it's critical, and that's all I've already kind of started that conversation, which is how do we make sure we have what's happening in student affairs connect more with kind of faculty and bring faculty into the fold, or at least the ones who are interested. And the second piece, honestly, is also with our admissions, enrollment, and so on, right? So I've been talking, for example, hey, when we get students for an admitted students day and so on, can we match it with other activities going on campus, right? So like, I'll tell you, like Winter West, when that happened, which was fabulous. How many of you went to Winter West? Okay, so it was really nice, okay? And I was thinking, man, if I knew this was this nice, I would have asked my admissions team, like, we should be having student tours now, come in and see it. We want them to see the energy. So to your point, it's like, I feel like all that happens, and they do a lot of work through CSI and everything else that happens in student affairs. But we have to make sure it really connects with all our units, whether on the academic side, whether in enrollment management, and everything else. And what you described on the student activity part is definitely a critical piece of that.
To that end, I wonder if we could have like you say that meetup app, or if you just want to go hiking and put in hiking, it tells you all the hikes that are in your area. An app like that.
Yeah.
I
I
know
mean-
when I taught at Berry, we had students that actually picked the school because they Googled outdoor friendly campuses. We have a lot of great outdoor things here,
Yes.
but I don't think we pop up in that search.
No, I mean, I don't want to add one more app to what we do, but we have to. But what you're saying, I mean, I've been thinking along the same lines, which is how do we make. Honestly, there's just so much happening in the, I'm trying to talk to our communication folks on how do we I mean, for example, how many of you know that if you go to the fitness center and we have this outdoor unit and you can rent like canoes and bikes and so on, how many of you know that? Okay, so it's actually, that's good. See, like, and if you do, so maybe your communication is awesome. So, it is, this is one of those where we have so many good things here. And honestly, I'm talking to my communication experts and our technology experts and others to see how can we kind of, combine that information and, so that people have access to it. One thing we're doing and, which is more on the student side with the Druid platform, is kind of having, instead of multiple chat bots at different places, having one unified one, and we're making some progress towards that. John, I'm thinking maybe we need an equivalent on the faculty staff side as well, where instead of going to multiple places, they go to one unified question and say hiking, and the registered student organization shows up, and a faculty group shows up that's going hiking, and a staff, somebody, talks about something. So, I think maybe things with AI and everything, maybe that's kind of something which because I'm struggling. I've been asking my teams to give me suggestions on how do we get that, because I realize so many people don't know, like the student help. How many of you knew about that when I was saying that you can go without insurance and stuff? So, I mean, it's good. It seems like about 40% people in this room, but this is like a perk. It's like everyone should have this option, right? Everyone should, I mean, honestly, with our insurance co-pays and stuff, to me, it's like if I'm sick here, let's hope not, but if I'm sick, that'll be my first stop. Okay, my first stop will not be going to what my insurance gives me. That'll be my first stop, because for $50 I can get taken care of most things over there. It's a very nice facility if you haven't been there. So there are many things which we offer, which are great and opportunities, and we just. So all I'm telling you is I hear you. I don't want to add one more thing, but I'm trying to see how what we have can be integrated so that people can quickly. But in the meantime, we also don't, I'm also sometimes we keep waiting for, like, when we're discussing student employment earlier, and talked with some folks and they were like, well, we have this system and that. And I was like, can we just like go back so that when students go to career services, have a book there so that they can like see what jobs they have instead of like sending them. So I think we should look for those low tech things too. And for now, I would honestly say if you have things which, whether it's interest, whether it's other student things you want to be involved with, maybe a low tech thing for now can simply be, let Dylan know are there things and we'll individually contact you. I can share that with my staff. Whoever is in that area will reach out to the faculty member and be like, hey, I heard you maybe have interest in this thing. Just want you to know, you can join this group or whatever else, right? So let's not wait for, I mean, as much as we want these overarching AI systems, I also don't want to wait for I think we can have low tech options of, just let us know, and it means more work for us. But we do want to, and then a lot of it, I think, is also honestly word of mouth, where one of you does something and you talk to your colleagues and you're like, hey, this is awesome, do you want to join? That's how it spreads, right? And hopefully we can have that. So let's not keep waiting for, honestly, anytime you have any of these things where you want to be involved and so on, through Dylan, even directly to me, and we'll have someone reach out. We'll have someone reach out to you. Any other questions, thoughts? Yes. Dr. Khan.
This is just a comment. It is about student salaries. First of all.
How about student what?
Student salaries. I was chatting with a group of students in our sophomore seminar class. And I was bragging about a grant that we hope we will get, where the student salaries will be $15 an hour. A student tells me, that's not enough, I'm getting 18 already.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real need. And by the way, March 14th, happy Pi Day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Only Dr. Khan could have. Thank you. I do wanna say, by the way, in case, this was, maybe 2-3 years ago, I don't know, so I want to make sure everyone knows. It's Pi Day, and you may all know, but I don't want you to raise your hand if you don't. It's because it's March 14th, 3/14, and pi is 3.14128, whatever, that's wanted to make sure that everybody. Well, can I just quickly answer this question? So first of all, we do, you're right. And we do have, and I'm trying to see how much flexibility we can have on the rates and so on. But I'll also tell you, once students realize, if they're doing $15 in your lab and $18 in Domino's Pizza, they would soon realize that this is much more, they'll learn more, they'll have more empathy, they'll have more flexibility, and people will pick 15 over 18 outside, right? But that said, we have to remain competitive. But I have heard that too. Sorry, yeah.
Well, I have, I guess a follow-up and also perhaps a suggestion. I'm a member of the SHRUP committee where we actually, give out money to basically faculty.
And I'm sorry, what's the committee?
The SHRUP, Student Research Assistant.
Oh, gotcha.
And one of the things that it's always, our problem is that we have great proposals, really good ideas, and one of my it's one of my colleagues in that group. But we're always constrained with a little bit of money that we have. We need much more money to actually be able to allocate higher salaries and perhaps more grants to faculty. I think that is something.
What do you mean more money? Is this coming for grants? Is this coming from institutional resources?
Well, where exactly does the money for
Institutional.
Institutional budget,
It's institutional money.
for student salaries, that,
Gotcha.
so it's not a faculty grant, the money goes.
It's not
to
a
students.
faculty, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and so I think if we can look at how to increase that budget, I think we could do a lot more for students. Especially because for the past several years, and I'm so glad that Chase actually came to you to complain about that, because we had that conversation in lab. And I told them, if you're the SJ president, you need to go to president of the university. So I'm glad he actually finally got it. So I've been running this survey in my classes. It's a focus group and a survey asking a question that said basically how many hours do you work in almost every semester. The vast majority of the students in my classes work. And then I've been doing a bit more systematically this past semester. Found out that 43%, about 43% of our students are working more than 16 hours a week. And the reason that I focus group, right, I asked them, why are you going outside of the university to work? And they say for two reasons. Number one, because there aren't enough jobs. And number two, even if there is a job, they only pay $7.50 an hour. I mean, that doesn't even pay for that.
Well, yeah, but not anymore though. I mean, we've really gone up, but you are right. I mean, the broad sentiment is students seem to be finding it easier to go to an outside job, which is not good for them, which is not good for us. Right. And we need to change that. We need to have enough. I don't think we need to necessarily match, because again, that's the messaging thing too, which is, hey, you can go out and make $2-3 more. But these students, they really kind of, they have to then like either miss the job or take an exam. It's like, because there's no, and I don't blame the corporations because they have to keep doing the job, right? So, but our students, we really have to pay them enough. I don't think we have to meet necessarily the market rate, but pay them enough where it doesn't become like, why should I do this job? Because the thing is, if they're on campus, they can have more meaningful jobs, connections. Well, it's in our long term. As you know, I've been talking about campus presence, not only for like now, not only for user dining and housing, but because you build connections, they'll come back as successful alumni, they will contribute more to us with their, with their time, their experience, their money, everything. So it is kind of, it's really important, and it comes back pretty soon. It's like you do something today, in 10, 15 years, you will start like, kind of, you'll see that effect. And for example, right now, I've talked about our undergrad on campus today is half of what it was in 2018. Guess what's gonna happen? 10 years from now, our alumni base, who are potentially gonna be donors, it's gonna be half. So it's gonna hurt us, right? So we have to start kind of correcting that so that we're ready for the next 10 years, not just for today's dining and so on. But no, I mean,
And finally, if I may, one more.
Sure.
Point. It's about engagement, student engagement. That data that I've been collecting.
Yeah.
It really tells me that we have a bimodal distribution of our students. I think we have to definitely continue doing everything we can to engage the ones that are here on campus. I mean, that's definitely a priority.
absolutely.
But I think somehow our conversations always gravitate towards those students who are on campus. I think we really are neglecting the ones that are working a lot, who come to class and have to go to work. Half of my students this morning in my classes had to leave because they had to go to work. And that's I mean, you wanted students engaged, they're gonna have to choose between feeding.
No, and I think again, it's about, instead of them going out, how can we keep them within the campus? No, I mean, I 100% agree with that. I know I've taken a lot of time. Anything else? Anyone? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ashwani. Continuing on, yeah, happy Pi Day. It's a great day. This is, sometimes you hear about limited time offer. Well, this is true. So after this meeting, I think there might be 8 or 9 slices of apple pie in the office of the provost. So I welcome you to stick around and chat with colleagues. But if you want, come over and grab a slice of apple pie at a Sanford Hall. So we are celebrating that. If I'm a little fuzzy today, I apologize. It's because of the lunar eclipse. Did anyone get up at 3 in the morning and watch totality? It was beautiful, right? My son is studying astrophysics and, home for spring break. So we're not passing up that opportunity. So it was up for about an hour and a half watching this. The wiser in the room probably could just go on YouTube and watch it, but there's no substitute. But it was a great event. I hope you caught that. Hope you're enjoying Pi Day, and also looking forward to spring break next week, right? But I'll start where I always start and saying we're never on break, right? Even though we might not have classes next week, you all are engaged, and today's agenda is indicative of that. So I just want to connect and hope you have a little bit of a time off and to refresh, but also understand that you're still grading and you're still preparing for next week's classes and even getting ready for fall 25 and beyond, right? So that's the academic cadence. It's always ongoing. So I'd like to connect with that and provide some updates on some things that were raised in the last 2 faculty senate meetings, and also give some updates on engagement with the university system office, some of the representation. And David does a great job of this, continuously new programs, updated programs, and working on Momentum Year. So hopefully you were able to engage with some of that in our Momentum Council, the online content, as well as the event that we had. It was down the hall, a week and a half ago? 2 weeks ago-ish. But connecting with that, our momentum work, I'd like to say it's kind of we're not going to talk about killing birds, but catching and enjoying and then releasing 2 or 3 birds with one net. I'm not going to say kill birds with stones. That's not nice. But let's talk about momentum connected with QEP, connected with student engagement. And all of it is interconnected. It's like the grand unification theory, right? Nothing is set yet. And in this case, our momentum work has gotten high praises in years past. And UWG has really gotten accolades at a system level for how engaged We have so many faculty across the institution engaged with this, really leaning into how do we help instill in students a growth mindset in that first, and we're really moving into that second year as well. About if you don't know a thing, it's not because you can't know it. How do you get exposure and how do you dive deep into it? And I think we do that really well across all of our academic programs. It's certainly recognized by the system office and indicative in our momentum plans that we have. But it's not just a set aside, a project that's over here. It's also connected to our QEP about experiential learning and career readiness. And I was in a meeting with a business, a local business earlier this week, where they were really leaning into new opportunities with UWG and the cost of acquisition and retention and onboarding of employees is pretty high. And I was talking with them, and I think we do a brilliant job of this across the institution about preparing our students to not only know content, but be able to answer that question. Tell me about a project that you worked on that was messy, right? Piggybacking off of Ashwani's comments and the concerns about, well, can I work off campus and maybe make a little bit more money? But you have a much deeper ability to talk about a real problem. Whether it's a business that's funded that through a capstone project, or whether it's through undergrad research experiences through STRAP or others, we have amazing opportunities for students to be understudies. I was talking with Jeff earlier this week about this, creating clusters of faculty with graduate students, with undergraduate students that many of us experienced at our graduate level work. And UWG really prides itself on exposing students to that at the undergraduate level, sometimes as early as the first year. And we just have had preview day, we had admitted student day, and I commend you for that engagement and you all being the first line in recruiting students, but not only recruiting students, holding on to those students that have been admitted and saying, yeah, actually come here and register, because they get that access to faculty. Whereas in other places, it would be, well, you work with a graduate student, or maybe if you're a senior, you might get a bit of time. We do that really well in connecting our students from day one. So embedding that in our QEP and our momentum work aligns really, really well. Additionally, in the last month since we met, presented our strategic priorities to the system office. These were established a year ago. Not surprising, focusing on student success, retention, graduation rates, but also that Common Course Components project that we've been working on and engaging more students and being proactive. The latest data in that pilot group that is having these proactive reminders to students 3 days before and 1 day before an assignment is due. If you haven't turned it in, they get that friendly reminder of make sure you don't miss this. And for those in the room or who are online, thank you for piloting that. It's a little messy. We've learned some things along the way, and we'll have some great scholarship of teaching and learning articles that will be coming out of UWG. So as always, if you're not engaged in that, look for more information or talk with me, talk with Mandy. Happy to get you connected into that. But what we're finding already is for the students that are in that experimental group versus the control group, instead of 17% not turning assignments in, it's down to 10%. Now, I'd love to see 0, right? But a 7-point move on average in the last 6 weeks is tremendous. Those students are more engaged and they're not forgetting, and they've got a lot of demands on their time, right? Family, work, other classes. But just that friendly reminder to say, make sure you turn this in, is moving the needle on students turning things in. And then you're giving that feedback and they're going to do much better. I'd be astounded if we didn't see higher student success rates, lower DFW rates, and quicker time to graduation, which is what we're all about. So good news on that front. And when I presented this to the system office in the meeting, they were not only astounded that we had so much buy-in on Common Course Components and faculty having a common interface across UWG for syllabus schedule and assignment submission, but they were also really impressed with this project that we're doing and really commended us. So I want to, pass that accolade on to you that UWG is seen as very positive across the state, and we're doing some amazing work. That's just one example of that. Also in this room a week ago, we had a fireside chat. Tried to put fire from, the fireplace on your Netflix on the TV out here. So the fireplaces were a little too big. It was getting too warm in here. But we had great attendance, standing room only for the Perry College hosting. Some of our alum, as well as business leaders in the area, talking about entrepreneurship and what's next and what should students and our community know. Great events like that mean the world to students and the community of faculty and staff here on campus. So that's just one example of, if we look at, and I hear you about better notification of, what events are going on. So if you weren't aware of that fireside chat, I'm redoubling efforts to help get the word out there. And I'll add, one of my takeaways from this conversation already is, I want to add at the bottom of the Academic Affairs newsletter every week, a hyperlink to that Student Affairs student activities. So if you're interested in connecting with, maybe it's a hike, maybe it's chess club, maybe it's a political debate, whatever it is, it just reduces that friction. Yes, it's out there. Yes, you can find it, but just a quick link at the bottom every Monday morning where you can click on that and say, what's coming up in the next few weeks that might spur your interest. So look for that. Appreciate this conversation and those suggestions. Looking ahead into fall 25, I mean, it seems early for that, but it's not. Students are already registering, we're advising. Appreciate all the work that you all have done for the last 3 months in building that schedule. Got an email earlier this week about, of all things, transportation on campus, buses. And the new schedule of classes is dispersing students, not just between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., but more classes earlier in the morning and later into the afternoon, is having an effect in so many ways: flexibility for student scheduling and more engagement across the campus. But it also means we don't need as many buses per se, right? So I didn't even realize that this was going to be an impact, but it's a positive one, maybe a third or fourth order impact, where instead of 20 buses, we need 18. And I don't know the numbers, don't quote me on that, but whatever it is, we don't need all of them in just a short portion of the day. It's more spread out. So all of that work, and it took us, a year and a half. Really appreciate a deeper conversation, Jason bringing this up and others around, what does that schedule look like? What's the impact? And we've arrived at a better schedule in fall 25 because of those conversations. So appreciate that back and forth with Faculty Senate and the good points that you raised. I'm still looking forward to that 11 o'clock Tuesday, Thursday, free hour. Put free in air quotes because it's never free. We're always doing something. If we do have long lines in dining, we'll staff up and we'll make sure that that's covered. But looking forward to that fall 25. And speaking of fall 25, we've got, and Ashwani addressed this, the on-campus presence. We drifted during COVID and understandably needed to go online there. We're pulling that back, and I'm happy to say the draft schedule that's out there, instead of having 40% of the seats online as we did in fall 24, we have 28% of the seats online. Now that includes grad, and that includes intentional programs that should be online, but that's a significant move to bringing students in on campus, in classrooms. And I'm going to go back to the conversation we had at Faculty Senate in November. There was a lot of energy and a lot of support for on-campus, more on-campus activity. So appreciate you all leaning into that, advising students. Our advisors through professional advising are going to be getting students and encouraging them. For those though that do need to be off campus and to work, that's a separate market. We're going to encourage as much as possible to have them in these face-to-face classes, and we'll pivot as needed using that wait list. But I'm looking forward to a more vibrant, more on-campus experience, and I know you are as well. It's nothing like teaching to, 4 students who show versus the 40, right? We need that energy, and we'll be leaning into that heavily into fall 25. 2 more quick things. The space I know has come up. I saw an online conversation around faculty offices and the importance of that, especially during the Pafford build out. That will be occurring in the upcoming academic year. And I assure you that facilities is working to make that as seamless as possible, to make sure that people have temp spaces. It might not be contiguous like we'd like, Might be some disruption in moving people obviously out of Pafford into other spaces, but that's being taken care of. Humanities as another space issue with some of the tech and some of the punch list that exists in that space. Met with that group and had a good conversation. There's a couple of elements with that. One, we're still working with the contractors to resolve some of those issues, but also the technology, the vast majority of that technology has been handed over to us. We do have a CO, certificate of occupancy, right? We're in that building. So if there are still persistent issues there, we've got a punch list ticket system that we're monitoring with facilities. But from a tech perspective, ITS can handle those things. And then there's a question about that. And do we wait on the vendor to solve this, or can ITS handle it? ITS absolutely can in the vast majority of the cases. The third element of that is, some furniture still has yet to be delivered. And I'm not going to say supply chain, because who knows, right? We used to say that 4 years ago, right? But that is on the way. And so we're dealing with that. But if issues persist, please talk with Clint. Let me know, and we'll knock these things out. You've got to be able to get in a room, have the AV work. Laura and I were just talking about this before Faculty Senate. You shouldn't be spending your time dealing and fighting with the technology or the room. So very dedicated to working with ITS and facilities to solve that as we put those tickets in. Last thing I want to leave with you is the AI busters that we had earlier this month and the brown bags that are emerging. Great suggestion about color, aesthetic of color, as well as the science of color, marketing and all of that. So this is an interdisciplinary research brown bag group that has emerged. Thanks for the faculty that are interested in that. It's just really cool to be around smart people. And we've got that all over campus, whether it's in how is AI impacting higher ed and how we teach, but it's also disciplinary connections across science, art, marketing. So encourage you to keep doing that fun stuff. And if I can ever help, if I can be there in the room to assist, if I can, put it in the AA newsletter and make sure we've got broad awareness of it, please let me know there. With that, I'll open it up for any comments or questions. Yes.
Will you just give me the numbers again, the online breakdown comparison you gave?
Fall 24, we started at this time, it's year over year. So it wasn't, when we started fall 24, but in March, in preparation for fall 24, 40% of the seats scheduled were online. And it's now 28% as of this month in preparation for fall 25. Mm-hmm. The other numbers I tossed out were 70% assignments not submitted, down to 10% assignments not submitted, which is, yeah, fantastic. More grading, for faculty, I recognize that, but that's a good thing, right? We'll take that. What else can I answer? Yes.
First of all, I would comment, the fireside chat was really great. I was, made a last minute decision to go with that ton of grading, but it was a very cool event. It's great to see that.
And good food too.
Yeah, I did run back to grade stuff. It looked good. Okay, so kind of related to CMCS and Fair College. And I'm aware of our hierarchy, like I know the director serves at the pleasure of the dean and so on, yada, yada, all the way up to president. But this is just a comment that I think relates to other colleges and schools, and something I've noticed, especially since I've been spoken to a lot about this interim director position. The fact that we have interim directors in CMCS and it just kind of keeps continuing as interim, which I understand we have an interim dean, but that seems problematic to me because we have this position that has so much opportunity to be stable. And we really need that for our faculty, and that goes down to the students. And so I'm not expecting to have like an insider knowledge of the plans or anything, but I just wanted it to be heard that I think if those director positions became more stable, that would be great for our school, our college, and probably for other schools and colleges as well. I'm not aware of other structures like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's been raised. This idea of interim and leadership and more firm stability there. You're absolutely right. So the intent is to form the committees for these searches for both JAS and CMCS in late spring. kick those off in earnest in August, run the searches and have permanent needs going forward. There is that cascading effect, right? So I appreciate the work that Greg and Dwayne have done.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been great interns and.
Completely
Right
agree,
up there too, but it's just hard.
but we need that stability. I agree. That coupled with, good people shift and have different opportunities, but longevity and stability is key, especially if you're defining strategic priorities, right? Yes, undergrad on campus, that's a meta, but how are you executing that in CMCS? How are you executing that in different colleges? And some stability and leadership there is very helpful. Point well made. Other thoughts, questions? All right, we have a 591 page agenda, so I will step away and let UCM and or UPC and GPC with their items control it. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you both, as always, I just really appreciate y'all coming and having this discussion, so thank you. We're going to go ahead and get going with an item of the executive committee, so on behalf of the executive committee, we have your executive secretary, Laura Wolf.
So I know that senators, you've had the opportunity to take a look at this previously, but I'm just bringing this up for consideration and a vote regarding the revisions to Senate committee structures. And in our agenda, you'll note that we have the rationale and we have the chart that shows how things are being consolidated but not removed. And we have that here. I like it, honestly. I mean, you can clearly see that, nothing is going anywhere. It's just consolidating. And then we've got the restructuring proposal in terms of the numbers. So I'm just doing my diligence to bring this up. And Dylan, if you'd like to speak more to it, and if anyone has any questions, then that's
So for the most part, I'm gonna stick to my capacity as the representative of the entire body. And I want to open the floor up for discussion. I am happy to answer any questions to the extent I can. But at this time, we can have some discussion. We can have questions about this topic. And when that wraps, assuming there is any, we can move to a vote on it. And I do, as far as the vote goes, our parliamentarian is doing his due diligence and reminded me to remind you all that since we have a few proxies today, under current policy, proxy votes cannot be counted.
Yes.
We have one.
And this is a vote to send it to the general faculty.
Yes, thank you very much. So what we are actually voting on is, this is a vote to recommend as a Senate that we will pass this to the general faculty to vote. So all of our colleagues will have an opportunity to vote on this. That is actually the only way that we can make this change to the bylaws, is for all of our colleagues to have a vote. This, we actually, as far as that policy goes, the Senate does not technically have to do this. But I think this is appropriate for us to have that.
Just a very quick question, follow up on that one. How long will the voting process for the general faculty will be open? Have you decided that?
Oh, Laura's the expert on that.
We usually keep it open for about 2 weeks.
So the typical process is, if we were going to do it by electronic votes, that would be giving everyone 10 business days. For that. But it can also be put on an agenda for an in-person vote of the general faculty, assuming we do have general faculty forum.
Would that be after the spring break or during, so the 10 days will begin today?
No, it will be once it is sent to the general faculty.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I put everything for the general faculty vote into a Qualtrics survey that comes out after the general faculty, and then that's the week.
Please.
Beth Shepherd from the library. I have a question. How much brainstorming did you solicit from the faculty in general in coming up with this new system?
Sure. So we started the basic process on this is First, this is a conversation that dates back to probably at least this point last year when the Senate under Jeff's leadership really dove into talking about faculty workload. Prior, I would say, I think it was the December, November, exactly whatever the last executive committee meeting was before our winter break. We met and I essentially asked all of the committee chairs to think through our current system and bring any feedback to me. As a result of that meeting, in our January meeting, we did some live edits together and came up with a draft that was circulated across our faculty. And what we did then is we put it to the committee chairs to convene their committees and share it out with them, have some conversations with the existing committee structure, and then committee members at their own discretion could discuss with their colleagues and bring feedback on that. That feedback has been coming to us as executive committee. We made some additional changes based on that. And really within the last couple of weeks, we've gone through a few different iterations. So what would some feedback is still trickling in, just so everybody is on the same page of a document. And we basically cut things off, I think on the Tuesday, I think it was, I put this up here, but this has been something that we have been working on for months. And I think many people around campus by this point have laid eyes on it and an opportunity to give feedback. Please.
I want to tell you that I am not inclined to vote to move this forward at this point. It feels like it came from executive committee, and I am amazed of the work that you did, but I feel like we've been more asked to react to it rather than to start from scratch and say, what do we as a campus want our governance to look like? What do we as a campus want our committee structure to look like? I just did some basic benchmarking, and I find that amazingly enough, almost every other USG school has a library committee as part of its faculty governance. Wow, what a mind blower. We have not only a library, but we've just recently birthed the UWG Corporation. Do we need to look at having a committee structure that accounts for some of these new things we're doing or things that our colleagues at other schools are doing? Do we need a research? I Googled Elon University up in North Carolina. They have a Senate that only has 20 members for its 457 faculty members. And then for its committee structure, instead of having every unit have representation on every committee, they have committees that have a rotation. In year one, we will have representative from schools A, B, and C. In year two, our representatives on this committee are schools C, D, and E. So it gets to the issue of not as many members, but through more creative means. I'm not sure we don't need to have those sort of conversations. We have lots of people on faculty who've experienced lots of different Senate structures and lots of different committee structures. I think we need to hear from them and think about this. I mean, I think change is important, but do we want to just patch something up, or do we want to actually do something from the ground up that we're going to be proud of?
Thank you. Anybody else? Please.
It may have been explained, but in the rationale and everything, but I noticed the one committee, the rules committee, has fewer representation from the academic programs. And I would think that programs would want representation on that committee. I also understand that the rules are at a university level, so you're kind of filtering up maybe those ideas to those committee members, I don't know. But I wasn't sure if anyone could speak to that justification or,
Yeah, so just from my impression, the logic there is. All of these committees have been tweaked somewhat to sort of empower them more when it comes to the rules that are within their purview. And as it stands now, the rules committee has to deal with a lot simply because other committees don't seem to have that responsibility. So the logic here is to make the rules committee more of a traditional rules committee for a legislative body, that it resolves disputes among the legislative body. So it would strictly be a mechanism whereby the Senate itself can exercise control and influence over its rules. So the Senate is a representative body, so not having representatives from the academic units on the rules committee allows the rules committee to function in a narrower role, but it also allows us to not have to stab more positions across campus. That's the logic. To answer the direct question.
Thanks.
Other questions or discussion points? Please.
So from the faculty work group that was looking at faculty service and workload, was this something that people identified as it would be a potentially positive thing to do? Like, is it a direct response to faculty service concerns?
Jeff, I hate to call you out, but you were deeply involved with that group, and I know that from what you conveyed to me, that it was found that when our service was audited, the Senate certainly has a role in service burden on campus.
Yeah, if you recall, and those of you who were here in the fall of 2023, it would have been, I think, our October meeting, or it was really early in the semester. And by the way, structure and process of Senate are related. So we had a problem in our process of being able to get people to serve on the Senate and to serve in committee responsibilities as chairs. And we were getting chairs into the semester, trying to get them in place. And sometimes we had to have 3 people who would work as a team to be chairs because no one wanted to do it individually. So there's a number of structural concerns that I think are important, but also getting us to function and run the Senate was a real challenge at the fall of 2023. And so I initiated a meeting where we came together and spent that second hour talking about how do we improve our workload concerns, because clearly we're stretched so thin, we're having trouble managing the Senate load. And so we had a really good discussion of that. And out of that came suggestions, including the possibility of streamlining things, maybe committees meeting less often or having smaller numbers. Some committees were not really doing a lot of work and others were doing a ton of work. So the balance of workload across committees. There were a number of factors like that came out. We didn't do any particular action based on that in that year, except I wrote letters to people who I saw doing outstanding service work within the Senate as a way to just say thank you. You know, it's kind of one way to try to reward or at least show appreciation for service. But it was pretty apparent then, and I think it was as you came in, Dylan, still, that yes, we have structure to look at, but we also have filling the roles and running the Senate, which is getting better, I think, for sure, but was pretty challenging. And Laura, you remember that too. I mean, Laura was contacting departments and schools and colleges consistently asking for representatives. And it was just like pulling teeth sometimes to get people, if I'm not mistaken, Laura. So it came from that origin. It wasn't like the executive committee was thinking we just want to do something, and certainly we weren't asked to do something by anyone like administration. It was more of the urgency of concern that we just were not functioning process-wise, and maybe that meant structurally we could do some changes that would facilitate better service, load not being too burdensome on folks. So that's the best I can do in just articulating the history.
Thank you. Other questions or discussion?
I got several questions from my teams. And just one question about students, it's really good still student presence, right? There's
Yes.
not been a reduction.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, because we have fewer committees, overall, there are fewer students, but there's also fewer faculty represented on there as well, so it's proportional, so all the committees. The only committees on here that don't have students on them, off the top of my head, faculty affairs and rules committee don't have students. Academic policies has undergraduate and graduate student called for in this, and the student committee specifies to have one student from student government, one student from athletics. So there's.
I'll just mention the student front real quick.
Please.
It kind of depends on the SGA president and administration, if we get a lot of good student participation or not, so. I think it was 23-24. We had a really good SGA president, so we had a lot of student representatives, but that also kind of ebbs and flows, and we don't have a lot of control over that piece of it, so. Which. Yes.
It was like very important to how to measure success in a new structure, which is handling successfully.
So. Student success in terms of. Can you clarify exactly what you're?
Yeah. Nowadays, we are requiring teaching research. Those demands and success. So. In the student subject, students are very important. Yeah. But if I mean, it would be great to have one committee and then focusing on student success matters. And define what that is and how it can be measured. A lot of family members confused what that is exactly there. What kind of measurement we need something. So it would be great. I mean, focusing student success matters and then guiding student faculty. So in what committee and the new structure to be handling those issues.
So many of these things are handled in different committees. So student success involves many different things, you know, all the way from can be that internship, can be the experiential learning that happens in classrooms. So if within student success, there are issues that might positively or negatively impact student success, that might be something that if it falls under the purview of teaching and learning, we would be looking at, all right, so, you know, are not enough classes, you know, what recommendations, what kind of research can we do to help out in the area of teaching and learning? Now, if there was probably that student success that's related to more of like an athletic thing, then we would have we'd have a different committee that would handle that. So the idea of student success, even before student success was codified as a part of our annual evaluations and promotion and tenure, from my past years of experience of being on Senate and being in committees, is that it had already been addressed in various different forms, but not overtly named as we address student success. So with there, and I think to have one singular committee would end up back with another committee that may not have a tremendous amount to always do.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Historically, the faculty development committee, which was chaired by Patrick Erwin, and then by me, and then by Amy Coburn, modified the language in the faculty handbook to handle student success and how it came to be a kind of an umbrella by dealing with teaching, service, and professional development.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so just to answer my impression of that question, I agree with both of those insights. It would depend on what the particular question was. So if it's a student success as it relates to teaching, that would be the teaching committee. If it's student success as it relates to how faculty are evaluated, that would be the faculty committee, so on. As with any other issue that could come up, it's what is the particular question and how does it fit with this issue? With the committee. Other questions or comments, or shall we call the question or?
One more, and I think my questions are trying to help, create a foundation and framework, but if we do pass this and then we do have the idea of, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had a library, or if we had a research committee, doing this doesn't mean we can't do that. It just means that we're reducing the service burden for the coming year, and those are potentially good ideas that we could look at for the next vote.
Thank you.
So which goal would this be if it's passes through the Senate? Does it take effect by fall?
No, because all we are doing today is deciding whether we as the Senate want to recommend that going forward to general
I'm saying
faculty.
once Gen Fact votes.
Once Gen Fact votes, it would go in place in the fall.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Sorry, I'm just trying to answer the process.
In terms of process, shall we call a question? Well, all in favor of sending this for a general faculty vote, please raise your hand, say aye. Okay, thank you. All opposed? Abstentions?
You're proxy today, proxy. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. All right, so we have a couple things to move through here. So as far as the general updates from the executive committee, it is the time of year I really want to start beating the drum for, we need a chair elect for the Senate as a whole. Last year, we conducted business, Jeff conducted business as chair without having a chair elect, and but that does all of us a disservice. I can tell you that I would have been more effective had I spent last year knowing that I would have been in this position. So the folks who are going to be best for this position are in the room right now. So I'm talking to you all. If this is something that interests you, you will benefit better by putting your name forward now, nominating yourself. If you have a great colleague who you would think would be an excellent Senate chair, put them forward. We need to have 2 candidates in order to have an election, and this is also something that needs to coincide with our spring general faculty meeting. So hopefully we can have at least 2 great candidates, and then we can have an election. We will have a chair elect throughout the course of next year that can warm up to the position and then assume that position around this time next year. So I strongly encourage you to think about that. So just
Bill, just real quick.
please.
I was just asking about the term, so it's chair elect for 1 year, this is how it normally goes, didn't lately. Chair elect for 1 year, then you're chair for 2 years, then you're past chair for 1 year. So you do have a 4-year involvement, the heavy years are the 2 in the middle. So it'd be nice if that could get back to working the way it did. I didn't have a past chair or a chair elect, so they're really lonely.
And I'll just echo, like, that's not just the individual thing. We all benefit more when that works like it's supposed to work. So as far as eligibility goes, think about yourself, think about colleagues. The policy is, in order to be chair elect of the Senate, person must be a tenured full-time faculty member who has served in the Senate within the prior 3 years and who is not currently chair or past chair. So if you're interested, send, or you want to nominate, self-nominate or nominate, send that to Laura and I. And if you want to talk about it, get with me, get with Jeff. Jeff knows what's up. So that is that. We'll start probably emailing about that as well. Presidential search, very briefly. The most concrete piece of information that I have to share on that is the chancellor has conveyed that his clear goal to have this whole process wrapped up, new president named, and hopefully starting, they're going to have some say in that, whoever the new president is, but hopefully starting this summertime. So we can all kind of understand that if things work the way we all hope they will work, we will have a permanent president named and starting sometime in the summer. That timeline roughly aligns with our sister institutions in the USG, what they have done recently. So Albany State, Savannah State, that timeline would roughly align with what they have done. So that is what I know on that front right now. Some other quick general updates. We have AKC. I don't know if it's going to be Erica or Clifford. I want to briefly mention.
In terms of the academic calendar from 27 through 29, I believe it is APC was there at the last calendar meeting, just when that's event was to it. Had no objection to the academic calendar, pretty similar year to year. We don't have we're not blessed with the knowledge of the local school district's calendar, so it can't match anything up between university and those institutions. So, it is in the addendum. Somewhere in there. One.
Two. Hey, rules committee? Update?
So, and I apologize for not having like a written thing here. If any of you are on devices and you want to Google the faculty handbook and navigate there and read along, I'll do my best to be clear though. So the rules committee is considering a minor change to policy 208 in our faculty handbook. This is just a conversation item at this point. We're not necessarily pushing for this to be something that we're going to vote on. If we could, that would be productive, but it's just informational at this time. So this is in response to previous Senate discussions about somewhat presence on campus and engagement with students and things like that. So it's somewhere in either last meeting or the previous meeting's minutes that would then be a conversation that the executive rules committees would take care of. So that's what we're doing. The policy is currently worded to recognize that courses are delivered both using online and face-to-face instruction. So there's nothing in the current policy that pushes faculty to have office hours in a certain format. There's kind of an open nature to it. Conferences at other hours should be available by appointment for mutual conveniences of students and faculty. So we thought that was supportive. What we are questioning and what we're wanting input from all of you on, and this has been sent out hopefully to every college through email. If not, please speak to your rules committee representatives to send that to you. The question we're wondering is, should every academic unit on campus define a policy regarding office hours? And if so, the end of the policy would read as such. Academic units must establish a policy regarding office hours. Faculty in turn must establish office hours in accordance with their academic unit's policy. And must note on the syllabus. So at this time, it just says you have to have office hours in your syllabus. It doesn't say, and it infers that your academic unit has a policy. But many academic units do not have a policy. So what we are asking is, should every academic unit on campus define a policy regarding office hours? I know that was very convoluted. It would have been much better to deliver it with something in writing up there. But this is all written in email. Everyone in the Perry College, your PCs have been contacted by me personally. So if you didn't see it, contact your PC. I can't speak to the other colleges, but please, if you are on the rules committee and you have not disseminated this information, make sure to send it to people and get that input. You can ask questions now, but this messenger. But yes, please. Yeah.
How are you defining academic unit?
Yes,
Because we have
that's,
programs, departments, schools, colleges.
that's a great question. There are slightly unclear. There's no definition of academic unit in the handbook. There are 12 to 13 occurrences of it. And it seems like it could be at the college level. I would feel better if you answered maybe that question though, Dr. Preston.
I think you know it when you see it. Seriously, I think that, you could define that as a school or a college, you could define that as a department or a, is geology and geography the same? Is it, twice, there's a number of ways of defining that.
I would like to add though, just to be like pedantic a little bit, if this is a policy that suggests that someone is enforcing it, and since program coordinators have no authority, that I would say that it's at the college level or school level, because you can't have a policy that's expected to be enforced if it's all individually. So that's my perspective.
If I may, I think this only occurs when it becomes an issue.
Yes,
right? So I think the vast majority of faculty are doing a tremendous job, they're available to students. And as 208 is written, it says appropriate for the academic life of the faculty or something to this effect. It would only be in a situation, and I appreciate the, who's enforcing this. That would be part of the annual review or promotion and tenure, which would, to me, imply that it should be defined within that review scope. So it doesn't make sense to define it outside of that and then not have any ability to enforce that. If someone's not living up to the standard, the appropriate time would be during annual evaluation or at promotion and tenure. So aligning that. But again, I think the vast majority, this is not a concern, but clarifying to remove the vulgarity that's built in. Because someone might think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And then if a chair or a dean disagrees as part of that review cycle, this would provide clarifying language that we as the faculty within an academic unit define this as appropriate. And then it's not open to interpretation by someone who disagrees.
Thank you. Please.
Way back in the distant past, it was 10 hours, and it was in the handbook, 10 hours a week was expected of faculty. Have on.
My comments, actually, I was gonna say the same thing, that we actually have had policy that was very clear about how many hours were expected to be there. But in addition to that, if I remember correctly, that also emanated from policy at the board level. And I'm wondering, I was looking for it and I couldn't find it, because I was gonna suggest that you might want to check to see what the board says in either the policies and procedures or in the, handbook that they have. So, because they have it in different places. If I can find it, I'll send it to you.
It's section 2.18, it's in the handbook, and it's very clear about 3 shoulds that are outlined that we don't even touch upon specifically in our policy. So I do think for units, but as well as for rules, it'll be important to align whatever policy changes happen to the system. It's under academic feedback.
There you go.
Yeah, which that does not have a time restriction, I don't believe.
There's no time,
It's
there's
the,
no time restriction. I think we removed it from the handbook because there was no specified time restriction in the USG. I'm not in favor of having stricter rules than the USG. I hope you join me in that. Unless it's required, I don't think we should make ourselves more.
Right, and that's precisely the reason why I brought it up, and also because of the 1% rule. Seems that often when people are creating policy, they create policy for the 1% that actually is skirting the rule rather than the 99% who are following it. So let's try to solve a problem. I mean, let's not try to solve a problem that doesn't exist, but actually, right, deal with, I guess, empower academic units to deal with those 1%ers, when they come up.
yeah, I'd like to know in the conversations, I mean, we circled around these exact things and seemed, well, we could not come to a consensus about anything regarding time, so therefore it seemed inappropriate to present something to all of you about minimum time. What we could come to a consensus about was maybe what is working, and then when it's not working, someone should have guidance at the level. And I'd like to add too, when I came in, it was 10 hours minimum. That was really direct. That, as a new faculty member, was very helpful. And so it's not just about us, it's about people who will be joining UWG. And so you want to be as clear as possible. And potentially defining unit in that policy could be something someone could suggest. We hear that suggestion or whatever, just send those suggestions to the committee so we have something to work with.
And at the same time, whether you are in research track or teaching track, the top of the teaching. That's.
That is true. If someone was defining a time limit, we would want to consider that. That is true.
Thank you. But just one more on this, and then we really do need to move on for time. Kelly?
We got this question emailed to us, I guess, from whoever in the School of Nursing is on the Rules Committee. And to speak to the, creating something for the 1%, I do think we have to be careful of that. And are we responding with a policy change when what we really need is campus-wide education on what the policy actually is. Because I was told that the policy required 10 hours per week and no more than half could be online or virtual. But that's not what the policy says, and I didn't even know that that's what the policy didn't say until this came before the executive committee. And I'm headed into my 11th year here, so that's something I think we should consider whenever we're looking at a rule change is it really that we're violating the policy, or are we just lacking knowledge about it? And, you know, we have to be careful too, dependent upon the program. Because for me, who teaches, has a workload that's completely online courses, I can easily put 10 hours, if that's the number we're gonna say, into my schedule. But if I'm one of my non-tenure track colleagues, that all day Monday we're in meetings, and then they may have a teaching assignment that puts them in a hospital 2 days a week, and our skills and simulation lab 2 days a week, they are face to face with those students. Do they actually even need office hours? You know, because they're getting a lot more one-on-one time with the students they're teaching than I do with my online students. So I think that as we look at this, we really do need to think about who gets to make that decision. If we go with the, should they define them? Yes, they should, if that's what the policy changes to. We just need to be really mindful of what the programs, what the students in the programs need.
Thank you. And I'll just synthesize and clarify a couple points so everybody's on the same page. The number one, I think it's important for you all to hear from me that the reason we're having this conversation and the reason that the Rules Committee is considering this is because as a Senate, as representatives of the faculty, we have conveyed some things that we are actually trying to do to engage more around campus. That's where this conversation comes from. So I want to make sure that you all hear that from me. That's why this is happening. You are all doing a great deal every single day to engage with our students, and it's important we all recognize that. And where we see gaps, where we need to have a conversation about is the policy what it needs to be, we're trying to be proactive in addressing that. As far as the specific question, Rules Committee, I observed their meeting on this. They dealt with a lot of these issues. It's broadly representative. Right now, the specific, if you have feedback on this, get with them. You know, hey, they could table the whole thing, but who knows, right? That's how the community system works. But right now, the specific question that they're dealing with is simply, there seems like in the handbook right now, there is some ambiguity. And it's simply, should that be tightened up to simply compel academic units who are closer to the faculty, who presumably know their programs and what would be appropriate, simply to compel them to actually define a policy, whatever that policy is. They're just collective feedback. Sound good?
Yeah, would it be appropriate if I send this out, like the Senate email, instead of relying on the committee members to usually find?
You can send something to me and I'm happy to forward it.
Yeah, that would be efficient. I think most of it.
All right, so
So I asked my chair a long time ago, why 10 hours back then? And he's, but I'm mathematician, by the way. So, you know, that happened. And his explanation totally made sense, and that the instructional hours, although it is 1 hour teaching, you are not there for 60 minutes, you are there for 50 minutes, right? So for standard 12-hour teaching faculty, the number of hours they are inside the classroom is actually 10 hours now.
I mean, so just to be clear, the committee is not debating whether or not they should set a campus-wide policy in the handbook. That is not on the table for the committee at this time.
Just to be doubly clear though.
Please.
Hours is not the measure that the USG cares about in their policy.
Yeah.
It is about students knowing how they're being graded and having their grades by the midpoint. It's the three shoulds, if you look, hours are not the issue. And actually, it's really important to talk about having graded assignments with feedback by the midpoint, meeting with the student in a conference about that, so the student can know if they can continue or not in the course. I mean, it really has nothing to do with quantity of hours. It has everything to do with the quality of our grading, our feedback, and our working with students to make sure they succeed.
All right,
Which I
thank you.
think is a much better policy than 10 hours.
Thank you. In the interest of time and at the risk of losing quorum until we pass UPC and GPC business, I'll go ahead and solve the UPC chair down to.
Okay. UPC submitted 26 items for action items for a vote. And so far I've received no questions. If anybody has any now, we'll take that. This is close to 3 o'clock. Nobody has any questions. So then we'll call for a vote then. All in favor of these items proposed by UPC? Any opposed? Or any abstaining? Thank you.
UPC,
GPC had 16 action items for approval. There were no questions received. Any question? All in favor of 16 action items, raise your hand. Opposed? Same.
all right, thank you. All right, so what I do right now is I propose that we table our focus discussion until next month on improving peer-to-peer conversations. Before I take that vote though, because I know what'll happen as soon as I do. But I want you to use the opportunity to have these conversations with your colleagues. And I want to be clear about what the problem we're trying to solve is. The problem we're trying to solve is we're trying to replicate all of the good things that came from having an easily accessible all faculty email list with a more modern solution that minimizes the bad things. And we also need to be realistic about the fact that we're very unlikely to get that listserv back. So that shouldn't be the focal point of the conversation, but it's like, how are we gonna all like actually be more efficient about communicating with one another? So let's have that conversation with our colleagues. As of right now, I propose that we table that. All in favor? Table next month. All right, any opposed? All right, I'll have a great spring break. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Yeah.